Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss how Rishi Sunak's attempt at leading his party completely broke down this week. I've said plenty of times in the past that he had relatively easy opportunities to stamp his authority on the party. He failed to do so every single time. And now one of his own MPs has openly encouraged people to vote for a different party in the general election, and Sunak is taking no action at all. Spineless doesn't even cover it. It's also incredibly stupid. Someone needs to come up with a composite word which means simultaneously stupid and spineless. So I'm going to go over a bit of a timeline of leadership failures here. But first of all, what's the latest? Well, Nick Fletcher, who's actually the Conservative candidate for my new constituency, who has yet to have the nerve to knock on my door asking for my vote, has been urging people to vote Reform UK this week. Not across the country, of course. He tweeted a message about Lee Anderson. He expressed disappointment that he was no longer in the Conservative Party, described him as Ashfield's greatest champion. A sad indictment of Ashfield. And said he hoped that people in Ashfield appreciate what he did in the next election. And how does one show appreciation for a candidate during an election? Well, by voting for them, of course. So Fletcher was urging people in Ashfield to vote against the Conservative candidate, because I don't know who that's going to be, but there will be a Conservative candidate. In return, Anderson seemed to endorse Fletcher and a few other Tory amigos, implying that maybe Anderson was urging people not to vote Reform UK, his new party, in those constituencies. So party discipline non-existent on both sides, but obviously way more serious for the Conservatives. Reminds me of 2019 when Labour's Kate Hoey was openly attacking Jeremy Corbyn, ridiculing him in public, out campaigning with Nigel Farage for his Brexit party, and despite this, didn't lose the whip. It was incredibly weak leadership which gave other Labour candidates free rein to depart from the party line once the election came around, and quite a few did. Now, in the case of Hoey, she was stepping down anyway, so it wouldn't have changed her behaviour, but it would have made those still standing behave themselves. By not acting here, Sunak is giving the green light to Conservative candidates to do as they like. If they don't personally think the manifesto or Sunak's policies are doing them any favours, they're basically free to actively campaign against elements of it or just make up their own policies at will. And this lack of authority has blighted Sunak from the start. Now, I'm under no illusions that Sunak was unable to simply face down the swivel-eyed loon brigade of the party when he became leader. They were too entrenched. There were too many of them. But the way to deal with dissent like this, you tackle a few vulnerable ones at a time. You send a message to others. After all, what's causing the indiscipline? Why are Tories all pulling apart just as Labour are pulling together? Because the Tories think they're going to lose their seats. Labour think they're going to win them. Well, if you do not allow someone to even stand as a candidate for your party, they are almost certainly going to lose. So the party whip is quite a powerful tool for maintaining party discipline, particularly for those who still intend to stand at the next election. Now, it shouldn't be abused. Boris Johnson did abuse it in 2019 to his own benefit, but the detriment of the Conservative Party, because now they've got no leaders left. They're all going, oh no, Rishi Sunak's useless. We haven't got anyone else though. Whose fault's that? But the point of the party whip is that candidates get the benefit of the party machine to help get them elected. And then in return, they agree to maintain a certain level of cohesion with the party. And Sunak has had easy opportunities. The inquiry into Boris Johnson gave him first. He warned his MPs not to undermine the Privileges Committee. Good move. Someone was always bound to, though. So you have to follow it up. There was no one important, by the way. It was just random nutters. When the first one pops their head above the ramparts, he should have smashed it down again. The first Tory to attack the work of the Privileges Committee should have had the whip withdrawn. I warned you. I told you. We're under new leadership now. I am leading with integrity. You do not attack a parliamentary committee. That's what he should have said. The rest would have then fallen into line. At least those who were committed to remaining in Parliament beyond the next election. And by taking that action, Sunak would have shown ruthlessness against someone who was no threat to him anyway. Because Johnson's cronies had already lost their power at this point, as the Windsor Framework vote showed. and he would have told other would-be rebels to mind their step. No, you won't be attending a far-right convention, much less speaking at it. No, you won't be pushing conspiracy theories with Steve Bannon. I mean, think about the people who are causing Sunak major grief. You know, people like Liz Truss, Suella Braverman, Robert Jenrick, even Kemi Badenoch on the sly. They all expect to win their seats. They're all wanting to be part of the leadership that takes over after the election. But to do that, they have to be Conservative MPs. Rishi Sunak has the power to say, you're not going to be our candidate. So the threat of not allowing them to be candidates for the party, immensely powerful against people like that. Even David Frost, I mean, Sunak has no power over a lord as such, but he's sniffing around for a safe Tory seats. He wants to be an MP. Sunak still holds the keys to his good behaviour as well if he wanted to use them. You know, you need to be fair but ruthless in leadership. And as I've said before, the Tories respond especially well to basically right little bastards. You don't want them to be unpredictable because then you don't know how you need to behave. But as long as it's clear, as long as you set it out clearly, these are the boundaries. If you cross them, I'll cross you. You know, the Conservatives have had an attitude of mercy is for the weak long before Karate Kid made the phrase popular. Had he done that, future rebellions would have been smaller. It might have been, again, some committed nutters going, well, I'm just going to test the water here and everyone else is watching them. Well, let's see what happens to them. As soon as they step out of line, Sunak goes, mallet! And then that would be it. The rest of them go, oh, yeah, we don't fancy that. You know, and that's because his MPs wouldn't have known whether any show of dissent on their part might cost them any chance in the election. A slim chance, if you think, you know, onto a hiding, a slim chance is better than no chance. Could also be argued that if Sunak were able to stamp his authority on the party, the polling would have been better anyway. Not only would the party look more united, but he wouldn't have had to have pursued such idiotic policies that he clearly doesn't agree with. I know he's pursued some idiotic policies that were his, but some of them were appeasement. You know, he may actually have improved his party's polling a bit with a more united front and absence of the batshit. And, you know, if he'd not had to push insane policies, he'd have also deprived Reform UK of easy lines of attack. And when the next rebellion did come, it would be half-hearted, with only the most committed nutters charging the fence. He could then have removed the whip from the ringleader and continued that process. He's got, you know, Boris Johnson got away with doing it en masse and he had no majority. Rishi Sunak's got a fairly hefty majority. He could have got rid of 10 people and he wouldn't have needed to get rid of 10. And he could have done it and it'd be fine. All he needed to do was make clear where the boundaries were to his MPs and then enforce them rigorously, predictably and ruthlessly. And then one of two things would have happened. The first, okay, maybe the party would have united against his tyranny and deposed him. Or second, they'd have accepted that open rebellion was going to cost them any chance of representing the party in the election and behaved themselves. And given how damaging another leadership contest would be, it's spectacularly unlikely that they would have rebelled against him en masse. The overwhelming likelihood is that Sunak would now have a measure of control over his party as long as he was acting consistently. And most MPs would see that he was also acting in the interests of giving them the best chance in the election. And he'd have been able to say, look, any difficulty we're going to face, it's because of my predecessors, because I've done things right. Whereas look at the situation now. Impossible to say that Sunak is giving Conservative candidates a fighting chance. Frankly, their best hope, as published in the Express today, is that their voter suppression rules block millions of anti-Tory voters from being able to vote at all. I'll be talking more about that at some point, I think tomorrow. But that aside, Sunak has done nothing to improve their fortunes. He's better regarded by the public than Liz Truss, so what? You know, so would anyone have been. And he's shown that there's almost nothing you can do which Sunak will not turn a blind eye to. He's not consistent and he places no value on party discipline. The result is that Tory candidates are going to head into the general election campaign, whenever that officially begins, with a terrible public reputation and no sense of teamwork at all. And all because, after the hedonistic excess of Boris Johnson and the sheer insanity of Liz Truss, Tory MPs thought that the solution to both was to make a streak of piss their leader. But there we are, those are my thoughts. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe for further content. Click the like button. You can also sign up for memberships if you'd like to support the channel further. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.